It was one of those warm summer evenings where the air felt thick with the scent of blooming flowers and the promise of a beautiful night. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. I stood on my porch, sipping a cold drink and enjoying the peaceful solitude of my suburban neighborhood. It was a quiet area where children played and neighbors chatted amiably. Little did I know that this would be the last moment of peace I'd experience for a long time. As the sun set, the tranquility was suddenly disrupted by the sound of a frantic knock on my door. My heart raced, curiosity mixing with a hint of anxiety. I set my drink down, wiped my hands on my jeans, and approached the door. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman, disheveled and panting as if she had run a marathon. I hesitated for a moment, the instinct to protect myself warring with my desire to help. The look of desperation on her face won out, and I swung the door open. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice steady despite the nerves crawling up my spine. "Please, you have to help me," she gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "They're after me." I stepped aside, motioning for her to come in. "Who's after you?" I asked, closing the door behind her. I locked it instinctively, a chill running down my spine. "The men who were at the party," she said, her voice trembling as she sank onto the couch. They won't stop until they find me." "Party? What are you talking about?" I pressed, feeling a mixture of confusion and concern. "They're part of this group," she continued, her voice shaky. "They've been harassing girls for weeks, but I didn't know until tonight. I was at this party and I overheard them talking about it. I had to get away." A knot tightened in my stomach as I began to piece together the gravity of the situation. "Do you want me to call the police?" She shook her head vigorously, her eyes wide with fear. "No, they'll just make it worse. They're connected, and if the police get involved, I'll be in even more danger." I didn't know what to think. Part of me wanted to believe her, to help, but the other part screamed at me to be cautious. I glanced out the window, scanning the street for any signs of trouble. "Where did you come from?" I asked, my voice low. I ran. I was at the party, and they caught me eavesdropping," she explained, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I had to hide. They said something about taking care of anyone who knew too much." A million thoughts raced through my mind. I felt the weight of the world settle on my shoulders. Here I was, a simple person, and suddenly I was caught up in something much bigger than I could handle. I wanted to help her, but at what cost? "Listen," I said, trying to maintain calm. "You can stay here for now, but we need to figure out a plan." She nodded, looking grateful but still terrified. "Thank you." I didn't know where else to go. I gestured for her to stay on the couch while I made a quick call to a close friend, someone who knew the neighborhood well. "Hey, it's me. I need some advice," I said, explaining the situation in hurried whispers. "A girl is here, and she's in trouble. I don't know if it's safe." "Get her out of there," my friend said firmly. "Get her to a safe place and don't mention it to anyone else. If these guys are dangerous, you don't want them to know you're involved." I hung up, feeling a wave of uncertainty wash over me. "We need to leave," I said, looking at the girl. "But we have to be careful. Can you walk?" She nodded, her eyes wide. "I can do it. I'm scared." I grabbed my bag, tossing in a water bottle and some snacks, and opened the door cautiously. I glanced around the porch before stepping outside. The street was quiet, but the weight of danger hung in the air like a thick fog. We moved quickly, staying close to the shadows and avoiding the streetlights. The girl introduced herself as Lily, and as we hurried through the neighborhood, she recounted what had happened at the party. They were talking about some illegal deals they were involved in, but I didn't think anything of it until I overheard them saying they had to silence anyone who knew too much. She explained, her voice quivering as we walked. My mind raced with possibilities. Who were these men? What were they involved in? I could feel the tension building between us, but I couldn't afford to dwell on it. We needed to get somewhere safe. After a few blocks, we reached a small park, its trees casting long shadows in the moonlight. "Let's hide here for a bit," I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. We slipped behind a cluster of bushes, trying to catch our breath. The night felt alive with the rustle of leaves and distant sounds, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. "What do we do now?" Lily asked, her voice shaking. "We wait for a bit, then we'll find a way to get you somewhere safe," I said, trying to sound confident. Minutes felt like hours as we sat in silence, the weight of the situation hanging heavily over us. Finally, I felt a stirring in my gut, a sense of urgency. "We need to move," I said, standing up and scanning the area. We cautiously made our way out of the park, sticking to the darker streets. I felt a mixture of fear and determination coursing through me. We passed a few convenience stores, but I didn't want to risk running into anyone who might recognize us. As we turned a corner, I spotted a figure standing under a streetlight. My heart raced, and I pulled Lily back behind a nearby tree. "Stay quiet," I whispered, peering around the trunk to see the man's face. It was one of the guys from the party. My blood ran cold as I recognized him, his features illuminated in the harsh light. He was looking around, a sinister smile playing on his lips as if he was savoring the hunt. "We need to get out of here," I said urgently, my heart pounding. We moved swiftly, staying low and ducking into an alleyway to avoid detection. As we crept through the darkness, I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears, drowning out all other sounds. "Where are we going?" Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," I admitted, panic surging through me. "Anywhere but here." Just then, I heard footsteps approaching the alley. "There they are," I heard a voice call out, and my heart sank as I recognized the man from earlier. They had found us. We dashed down the alley, adrenaline surging as I urged Lily to keep up. The darkness closed in around us, and I could hear the men behind us, their voices growing louder. "They won't get away," one shouted, and I felt a surge of terror. We burst out onto a main street, but I had no idea where to go. I spotted a bus stop ahead, the light from the shelter glowing softly. "Over there," I shouted, pointing as we sprinted toward it. I fumbled for my phone as we reached the bus stop. "What time is it?" I asked, glancing at Lily, who was panting heavily. "It's almost midnight," she replied, her eyes wide with fear. "Is there a bus that comes through here?" I asked, my voice urgent. "Yeah, but it's not supposed to arrive for another 20 minutes, she said, panic creeping into her voice. "We have to wait," I said, my heart racing. We huddled together under the shelter, trying to catch our breath and blend into the shadows. Just then, I spotted a pair of headlights approaching in the distance. My heart sank as the realization hit me. It was the men from the party, and they were coming our way. "They're here. We have to move," I shouted, grabbing Lily's hand. We sprinted down the street, the sound of the approaching car growing louder. "Where do we go?" she cried, her voice laced with fear. "Anywhere but here," I shouted back, adrenaline pumping through my veins. We turned down another street, but I could hear the car following us, tires screeching against the pavement. I glanced over my shoulder and saw the vehicle barreling toward us, headlights cutting through the darkness. "Keep running," I yelled, urging her to push forward. We dashed through alleys and side streets, the fear of being caught propelling us forward. As we rounded another corner, I spotted a convenience store up ahead. "In there," I shouted, pointing as we ran toward the entrance. We burst through the door, panting heavily as we stumbled inside. The store was brightly lit, and the cashier looked up, confusion etched across his face. "Can I help you?" he asked, eyeing us warily. "Please, we need help. There are men chasing us," I gasped, trying to catch my breath. The cashier's eyes widened, and he quickly glanced out the window. "Are they here?" he asked, his voice tense. I nodded, feeling a wave of dread wash over me. "They're coming. We need to call 911. The cashier nodded, rushing to grab his phone. Get to the back. I'll keep an eye out. Lily and I sprinted to the back of the store, pressing ourselves against the wall as we waited. The sound of the doorbell chiming echoed through the store, and I held my breath as I peered around the corner. A moment later, I saw the men enter, scanning the store with predatory gazes. They can't have gone far, one of them said, his voice dripping with malice. The cashier spoke into the phone, his voice low as he explained the situation. My heart raced as I watched the men move closer, their eyes flickering over the shelves as they searched for us. Please don't let them find us, Lily whispered, her voice trembling. We'll be okay, I promised, but I could feel the panic creeping in. Just then, the cashier hung up the phone and rushed back to us. They're on their way, but you need to stay quiet, he urged. The men continued to search, moving closer and closer to our hiding spot. They're in here somewhere, one said, his voice low and dangerous. The tension in the air was palpable as we held our breath, the fear of being discovered wrapping around us like a vice. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I jumped, spinning around to see the cashier standing behind me. Stay close to me, he whispered urgently. I'll lead you to the back exit. As we followed him through the aisles, I could hear the men drawing nearer, their voices growing louder. They can't have gone far, one said, his tone filled with menace. Just as we reached the back of the store, the door swung open, and 2 police officers entered, their presence a welcome sight. Hands up! Where are they? One officer shouted. They're right here, the cashier exclaimed, pointing to us. The officers moved quickly, their eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. You two okay? One asked, looking at us with concern. We are now, I replied, my voice trembling with relief. The men from the party turned to run, but the officers were quick, apprehending them before they could escape. I felt a surge of triumph as I watched them being handcuffed and led away, their faces twisted in anger. As the adrenaline began to fade, I turned to Lily, who looked pale but relieved. You did great, I told her, feeling a sense of camaraderie. Thank you for helping me, she said, her voice steadying. I don't know what I would have done without you. As the officers took our statements, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The fear that had gripped me for hours began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound sense of strength. After everything, I knew I had made the right choice in helping Lily. The ordeal had been terrifying, but it had also shown me the power of standing up against danger. In the days that followed, I remained in contact with Lily as we navigated the aftermath together. We supported each other as we processed the experience, sharing stories and finding solace in our shared resilience. Though the memories of that night would linger, I also found hope in the connections we had forged. We were survivors, and together we could face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the end, I learned that sometimes the most terrifying choices can lead to unexpected strength and a deeper understanding of the bonds that unite us in our darkest moments.